In this demo, we're going to take a quick look at one of the documentation features of Python, which is basically known as function annotations. Now let's go ahead and create a simple method here. And this multiply will return x times y. Now there is, for every function, a built-in attribute called annotations with the double underscore. And if we were to print that from multiply, you will see right now it's empty. And if we were to help multiply, you'll see that it just shows you it's a method called multiply that accepts an x and a y. Doesn't really tell you anything else more useful than that. Well, let's go ahead and copy that multiply method. And now, after each of the parameters, I can treat it like a dictionary item, where x is now like a key, and I can provide a string next to it. And it doesn't really have to be a string. It could be virtually any object. But typically you're going to use a string here. And now each parameter is associated with another value. Now these don't affect the running of the function. It's not like a default value where you would say something like x equals 10. So it's just going to add some documentation to these parameters that we can view by using those annotation members, or if we look at help, you can see that we now show with the help x is associated with value 1 and y is associated with value 2, just like you saw here. Now typically something like this is going to be used for building documentation for your modules. There are also some proposals that besides documentation, we can use these types of annotations for type checking. So there could be a plugin you use, and you could specify, for instance, let's just grab multiply one more time, and instead of saying value, you could say int and int as such, and then you could have something that checks to make sure, based on what this annotation is, that x is an int and y is an int. How could we use that? Well, we could probably use a decorator to indicate it's something that's going to check the annotations based on the data types of each of the parameters. Also, notice we return a value from this method. To identify some type of annotation for the return value, you would use this arrow after the function definition but before the colon, and then if I print the annotations, you'll see there's now a return and it has the value result. You can see now the annotations for x and y have changed to literally class int. If we also wanted to assign a default value as well as an annotation, you could specify here equals 1 equals 2. Notice that doesn't affect the annotations, but let's go ahead and print help on multiply. And you can see now the help does show what the default values are, and it also shows you that the result is this result. As you can see it here is well, it matched what was in annotations. Okay, so this really is another way to assist with making your code more readable and maintainable. It could also help you run third-party documentation tools that recognize this syntax and it can build help files for your modules as well.